Your gut is a survival tool. It's your brain taking in pieces of information your conscious mind hasn't even had the time to process yet. Most people dismiss that inner voice. They second-guess it. They tell themselves they're overreacting. I don't. And that choice has saved me more times than I can count. In my work, trusting my instincts wasn't a luxury. It was a necessity. I've been in situations where ignoring that feeling could have meant serious harm, for me or for someone else. Your instincts are the silent alarm system you were born with, and the faster you learn to hear them, trust them, and act on them, the better you'll be at protecting yourself and the people around you. The reason intuition works isn't because of magic or some sixth sense. It's because of science. Your subconscious mind is constantly scanning your environment, reading tiny cues that your conscious brain misses. These cues come in many forms: microexpressions, those lightning-fast flashes of true emotion that cross someone's face before they mask it; shifts in tone, when someone's voice dips or tightens in a way that doesn't match their words; changes in body language, shoulders tensing, feet angling toward the exit, hands fidgeting in their lap; even patterns from your own past experiences. Your brain compares what's happening now to hundreds of moments you've lived through before, often without you realizing it. All of that information funnels into a signal, and that signal is what we feel as a gut instinct. I'll give you an example. One night, I stepped onto a subway car. The moment the doors shut behind me, something in my body told me to pay attention. Nobody was shouting. Nobody was fighting. On the surface, it looked like any other late-night ride, but my senses picked up on details that didn't add up. There was a man seated near the middle of the car. His eyes weren't roaming like most passengers do. They were locked in one place. His hands were curled into tight fists, resting unnaturally still on his knees. And then I noticed the woman a couple of seats away from him. Her posture was stiff, her gaze darting down at the floor, her breathing a little too shallow. That was enough for me. I didn't wait for something to happen before deciding whether my gut was right. I stayed positioned by the door, alert, scanning. And within moments, the man made a sudden move toward her. Because I'd trusted my instincts, I was already ready to act. That's the difference. Your gut will give you a head start if you let it. Now, here's how you sharpen that skill so you can read people instantly. First, observe before you engage. When you walk into a room, don't rush to speak. Watch. See how people interact with each other when they're not focused on you. Notice their baseline, what's normal for them. You can't tell if something is off if you don't know what normal looks like. Second, listen for inconsistencies. If someone's words say one thing, but their tone or pace says another, pay attention to the tone. The human voice is hard to fake under stress. You'll often hear the truth before you see it. Third, train yourself to spot micro-expressions. These are quick, half a second or less. A flicker of anger before a smile. A flash of fear before a calm mask. They're real and they're honest because they happen before someone can control them. Fourth, watch for changes in behavior. People are creatures of pattern. If their posture suddenly tightens, if they stop making eye contact, if their energy drops, those are signals that something has shifted in the dynamic. And finally, trust the off feeling. That knot in your stomach, that sudden urge to move away from someone, that twinge of unease. It's your nervous system signaling you before your brain has the evidence lined up. Too many people ignore it because they can't explain it. You don't need an explanation to act on it. But I'll tell you this, you can't overanalyze everything and expect your intuition to work for you. If you're constantly second-guessing every word, every gesture, you'll drown out the signals you need to hear. Intuition works best when it's paired with experience and careful observation. Think of it like a muscle. The more you use it, the sharper and more accurate it becomes. If you've never listened to it, it's going to feel faint at first. But with time, it becomes clear and strong. The biggest mistake people make is treating their instincts like they're unreliable. They talk themselves out of what their body is telling them because they don't want to be wrong, or they don't want to seem rude, or they don't want to confront an uncomfortable truth. But your instincts aren't trying to make you polite. They're trying to keep you alive. And in my world, Ignoring them could have been the last mistake I ever made. Once you start applying this, you'll notice things you never noticed before. The way someone's eyes dart to the exit when a certain topic comes up. The shift in their breathing when you ask a specific question. The half-second drop in their smile when you bring up a person's name. These are the tells, the giveaways, the tiny cracks in the mask that most people miss because they're too busy talking or thinking about what to say next. When you slow down, observe, and allow yourself to trust what you're picking up, you'll find that your brain is giving you more information than you could possibly process consciously in the moment. And that's the beauty of it. You don't have to process it all. You just have to listen to the signal. Your gut is your built-in early warning system. It's your body's way of alerting you before your conscious mind has even caught up. Most people brush it aside, telling themselves they're overthinking or being dramatic. I don't. That gut feeling has saved me more times than I can count. In high-stakes situations, it's not just a helpful tool, it's a lifeline. And here's the thing, you already have it too. You were born with it. The difference between those who stay safe and those who get blindsided is how much they choose to listen to it. When I talk about trusting your gut, I'm not talking about something mystical. I'm talking about hardwired survival mechanisms that have been keeping human beings alive for thousands of years. Your subconscious is scanning the world around you at lightning speed, way faster than your conscious thoughts. It's picking up on things you can't yet put into words. The way someone's face tightens for just a split second before they smile, the drop in their voice when they insist they're fine, the slight step back when you walk toward them. These things register, but they register in your body first. Your chest tightens, your stomach knots, your pulse speeds up. That's the signal. Microexpressions are one of the biggest tells. They're those tiny flashes of real emotion that leak out before a person can hide them. Maybe you ask someone a question, and for a fraction of a second, their expression shifts. Fear, anger, disgust. And then they cover it with a polite smile. That flash is the truth. The smile is the mask. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss it. Then there's tone. People can control their words, but under stress, it's much harder to control the pitch, speed, or rhythm of their voice. They might speak too quickly to rush past something they don't want to discuss, or their voice might suddenly go quieter, lower, almost as if they're hoping you won't notice the change. And body language, this is huge. Your body speaks long before your mouth does. If someone's feet are pointed toward the exit, if their shoulders hunch forward, if they start fidgeting with their hands when a topic comes up, their body is telling you something they may not want to say. Even the smallest shift, a person suddenly leaning back, crossing their arms, breaking eye contact, can reveal discomfort, defensiveness, or even deception. I remember one night taking a subway ride. It was late, quiet, and nothing seemed obviously wrong. But the second I stepped on that car, I felt it. That deep, unshakable sense that something was off. I scanned the car, and my attention locked onto a man sitting in the middle. He wasn't scanning his surroundings like most people do. His hands were curled tight, resting on his knees, too still. Just a couple of seats away, a woman sat with rigid posture, her gaze fixed down, her breathing quick but shallow. I didn't wait for proof. I stayed alert, positioned near the door, and kept my eyes on him. Seconds later, he lunged toward her. Because I'd trusted my gut, I was ready to step in before she got hurt. That's the thing. You often won't know why you feel uneasy until the moment something happens. And if you ignore that signal, it might be too late. To read people instantly, you have to train yourself to observe before you act. When you enter a room, resist the urge to immediately engage. Watch first. See how people interact when they're not focused on you. This gives you their baseline, their normal behavior. Once you know what's normal, you'll spot what's not. And when something isn't normal, that's when you pay closer attention. Then, listen for mismatches. If someone's words and their tone don't align, trust the tone. "I'm fine," said in a shaky voice, isn't fine. "I'm excited," said, without any lift or energy, isn't excitement. The voice is where the truth leaks out. Train yourself to catch those micro expressions. You don't have to stare people down, just become more aware of the first thing you see in their face when a subject changes or when you ask a question. You'll start to catch the truth before it gets covered and watch for behavioral changes. People tend to stick to patterns, how they sit, speak, gesture. When those patterns shift suddenly, even slightly, it's a sign. They may have been relaxed, leaning back. Then suddenly they're upright, stiff, avoiding your gaze. Or maybe they were talkative and then they go quiet when a certain topic comes up. That change is the clue. Finally, don't dismiss that uneasy feeling. If you're walking home and something in you says, "Cross the street," don't debate it, just do it. If you're in a conversation and you feel your stomach twist when someone says something, don't ignore it. You don't need to wait for hard evidence to take precautions. But here's the mistake people make. They overanalyze. They try to dissect every little move someone makes, and in doing so, they drown out the signal their gut is sending. Intuition works best when it's informed by real observation and life experience. It's not about paranoia. It's about pattern recognition. The more you observe and the more you trust your instincts, the sharper they get. It's like building a muscle. You can't expect it to be strong if you never use it. Most people talk themselves out of what they're feeling because they don't want to be wrong, they don't want to offend, or they want to give someone the benefit of the doubt. But your instincts don't care about being polite. They care about keeping you safe. And the more you start noticing the small tells, the glance toward the door, the flicker of emotion across the face, the shift in voice, the more you'll realize you've been picking up on these signals your entire life. You just haven't been listening closely enough. Once you start tuning in, you'll notice how much more information is available to you at all times. The truth is, the signs are always there. You just need to see them. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. Your awareness changes forever. Your gut is more than a feeling. It's a survival mechanism. It's your body's way of warning you before your conscious mind has put the pieces together. Too often, people second-guess that inner voice. They rationalize it away, telling themselves they're being too sensitive or paranoid. That's how they miss the signals that could have protected them. I've learned through years of high-pressure, high-stakes environments that when my gut speaks, I listen. And that decision has kept me safe in ways I can't even count. You already have that same ability. You just have to stop ignoring it. When you get that uneasy sense about someone or something, it's not random. Your brain is constantly scanning the environment, processing tiny cues you're not even consciously aware of. A flicker across someone's face that vanishes before they can cover it up. A shift in tone that makes their words sound hollow. The way someone's body tenses for just a second when a certain topic comes up. These are the little threads your subconscious collects, weaving them into a warning signal. That's your gut talking. It's not magic. It's pattern recognition happening at lightning speed. I remember a time when this instinct kicked in so clearly, it felt like someone had tapped me on the shoulder. It was late. I stepped onto a subway car, and instantly my body reacted. The air felt heavier. My senses went on high alert. Nothing looked overtly wrong. No yelling, no obvious trouble. But as I scanned, I noticed him. A man sitting in the middle of the car, unnaturally still. His hands rested on his knees, clenched tight. His eyes weren't moving around the way most people's do. They were locked. And then I saw the woman 2 seats away from him, shoulders rigid, eyes down, breaths quick and shallow. In that moment, I didn't question my instincts. I positioned myself near the door, alert and ready. Seconds later, he moved toward her, fast. Because I had listened to my gut, I was able to act before things got worse. That's the reality. You may not know why you feel it in the moment, but you'll understand it later. And you'll be grateful you didn't hesitate. To sharpen this kind of awareness, you have to train yourself to observe before you interact. Too many people walk into a room and immediately start talking. Slow down, watch first. See how people treat each other when they're not paying attention to you. Look for their baseline, their normal posture, gestures, expressions. Once you know what's normal, you can spot what's not. And when something is different, that's when you lean in and pay closer attention. You also need to listen for mismatches between words and tone. If someone says, "I'm fine," but their voice is tight, shaky, or drops in pitch, believe the voice, not the words. The human voice leaks truth in ways the mind can't always control. Under pressure, those leaks become even more obvious. Then there are microexpressions. These are those rapid, involuntary flashes of emotion that reveal what someone is truly feeling before they mask it. A flicker of anger before a forced laugh. A flash of fear before a calm nod. Most people miss them because they're quick and subtle, but once you start noticing, you'll catch them everywhere. And don't ignore changes in behavior. People are creatures of habit. They sit a certain way, move a certain way, speak with a certain rhythm. When that rhythm changes suddenly, when someone who was relaxed suddenly stiffens, when a smile fades the moment a new subject comes up, when chatter turns to silence, that shift is telling you something. The most important part is trusting that off feeling. You know it, that sudden knot in your stomach, that urge to put distance between you and someone, that quiet alarm in your mind that says, something isn't right. You don't need to explain it in the moment. You don't need to wait for absolute proof. Trust it. I've never regretted trusting my instincts, but I've seen people regret ignoring theirs. Now, there's a fine line you need to be aware of. You can't overthink every move and expression you see. If you start overanalyzing, you'll drown out your intuition with noise. Your gut works best when it's supported by real observation and life experience, not paranoia. Think of it like a muscle. The more you use it, the more accurate and reliable it becomes. If you've never exercised it, it's going to feel weak at first. But give it attention, and it will get stronger. What stops most people from trusting their instincts is fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of offending someone, fear of looking foolish. But your instincts aren't concerned with manners. They're concerned with safety. They don't care about making everyone comfortable. They care about keeping you out of harm's way. When you start paying attention to the subtle shifts, the sideways glance, the sudden breath, the quick flicker of emotion, you'll realize you've been seeing these signs your whole life. You just weren't tuned in enough to act on them. And once you do start tuning in, it's like the volume gets turned up. You notice the way someone's eyes track the exit when a topic makes them uneasy, the way they pause a fraction too long before answering a question, the way their voice loses energy when they're not telling the full truth. It becomes impossible not to notice. The signs were always there. You've just trained yourself to see them. When that awareness becomes part of how you move through the world, you stop walking blindly into situations. You stop getting blindsided by people's true intentions. You walk in with your senses already working for you, gathering information, alerting you, guiding you. And the more you trust it, the more it guides you right. Your instincts are not random. They are the result of your mind and body collecting, processing, and reacting to information before you've had a chance to consciously think it through. That gut feeling is your brain's way of saying, I've seen this before, and I know where it leads. It's built on thousands of subtle cues, shifts in facial expressions, changes in tone, alterations in posture, variations in breathing, that most people overlook because they're too distracted or too eager to jump into the conversation. If you want to read people instantly, you have to slow down enough to actually see what's in front of you. The first thing I do in any room, in any situation, is observe before engaging. Too many people walk into a space and immediately start talking, introducing themselves, or trying to connect. That's fine socially, but if you want to truly understand the people around you, you have to hold back for a moment. Watch how they behave when they're not focused on you. How do they interact with others? Are they warm and open, or do they only turn on the charm when it serves them? You're looking for their baseline, their normal behavior, because once you know that, you can spot when something changes. That change, even if it's tiny, is often the first indicator that something deeper is happening. Listening is your next weapon. And I don't just mean hearing their words, I mean listening for alignment between what they say and how they say it. If their tone, pace, or energy doesn't match the message, pay attention to the delivery. For example, when someone says, I'm excited about this opportunity, but their voice drops or loses energy. The words are lying, but the voice is telling you the truth. Under pressure or stress, people can control their language, but their tone betrays them. Then there are microexpressions, those fleeting, involuntary flashes of true emotion that slip through before the mask goes on. Maybe it's a flicker of anger before they regain composure, a flash of fear before they force a smile, or a momentary tightening of the jaw before they answer. These microexpressions are quick, half a second or less. But once you start training your eyes to spot them, you'll notice them more often than you think. They're honest because they're too fast for the person to consciously hide. You also need to pay attention to changes in behavior. People are creatures of habit. They tend to speak with a certain rhythm, move with a certain energy, hold themselves in a certain way. When that pattern shifts suddenly, it's rarely random. If someone who was relaxed suddenly stiffens when a topic comes up, or if their easy smile disappears for just a beat too long, that's a cue. If their eye contact was steady and suddenly drops, that's a signal. Behavior changes are like road signs pointing you toward what's really going on beneath the surface. And then there's the feeling, what I call the off signal. It's that unexplainable sensation in your gut that tells you something isn't right. It might be a heaviness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, or a sudden urge to create space between you and someone else. The key is not to dismiss it just because you can't put it into words yet. That feeling is your nervous system flagging a threat before your conscious mind has assembled the evidence. I've learned that when I ignore it, I regret it. When I act on it, I stay ahead of the situation. Now, there's an important balance here. You cannot overanalyze every little thing, or you'll paralyze yourself with false alarms. Reading people instantly doesn't mean interrogating every movement. It means letting your instincts work with the information you're taking in naturally. It's not about suspicion, it's about awareness. The more you observe without bias, the more accurate your gut becomes. Think of it like fine-tuning a radar. Over time, it gets better at filtering noise from real signals. This is why experience matters. The more situations you've been in, the more patterns your brain has stored. Every interaction, every conversation, every moment you felt off but didn't know why, those go into the database your subconscious uses to flag new situations. That's why people who've been in dangerous or high-stakes environments often seem to just know when something is wrong. They're not psychic, they're experienced. You can build the same ability by paying closer attention to the world around you, even in everyday situations. The truth is, most people are broadcasting more information than they realize. You can see the flicker of panic when their story doesn't line up. You can hear the subtle hesitation when they're about to say something they don't fully believe. You can feel the shift in energy when their mood changes. These aren't supernatural abilities. They're skills you can practice. Start by giving yourself permission to notice. Too many of us suppress our instincts in the name of politeness, wanting to avoid judgment or conflict. But the cost of ignoring that internal signal can be high. It's better to trust your read on someone and later find out you were cautious for no reason than to dismiss your instincts and end up in a situation you could have avoided. Over time, this becomes second nature. You'll walk into a meeting and immediately sense who's genuinely engaged and who's pretending. You'll have conversations and feel the exact moment someone's guard goes up. You'll be in public and instantly spot the person whose behavior doesn't match the environment. And you won't always be able to explain why, but you won't need to. When you start combining observation, listening, microexpression recognition, behavioral pattern awareness, and gut trust, you create a kind of internal compass that almost never fails you. It's not about being suspicious of everyone. It's about reading reality as it is, not as you hope it will be. And once you start doing that consistently, you'll see how much of the truth is hiding in plain sight. Your intuition is not a guess, it's not superstition, and it's definitely not luck. It's a highly tuned survival mechanism that every single one of us is born with. But most people either ignore it or let it get buried under noise. That gut feeling you get, it's your brain processing countless pieces of information in the background and sending you a signal before your conscious mind has even put the picture together. It's faster than thought because it has to be. If you wait for all the evidence, it might already be too late. The reason most people don't trust it is because they can't prove it in the moment. They want logic, facts, data, something concrete to point to. But your subconscious doesn't work in spreadsheets. It works in patterns. It remembers situations you've been in before, things you've seen, heard, and felt, and it matches them against what's happening right now. A look, a movement, a tone, it all gets compared instantly. If something lines up with a past experience that had danger in it, your gut sends the alarm. And here's the thing. Just because you can't explain it doesn't mean it's wrong. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a situation that seemed completely normal, and yet something in my body told me to slow down, to pay attention. One moment that still stands out was in a crowded public place. The energy felt off. Everyone around was moving casually, talking, minding their business. But one man's behavior didn't fit. He wasn't scanning the space like everyone else. His focus was laser-locked in one direction. His posture was too rigid, his hands too still, his breathing slightly heavier than it should have been for someone just standing there. My gut didn't wait for confirmation. It told me something wasn't right, and I acted accordingly. Later, I found out he had been preparing to make a move that could have put others at risk. That's the power of tuning in. You get the information before the event happens. To develop that kind of awareness, you have to stop rushing through interactions. The first thing I do in any environment is observe before engaging. That doesn't mean staring someone down. It means quietly taking in their behavior, their mannerisms, their rhythm. People reveal more when they're not paying attention to you. Watch how they treat others, how they carry themselves when they think no one is looking. This is how you establish a baseline. They're normal. Without knowing what normal is for them, you can't know when something changes. Listening is just as critical, and I'm not talking about hearing words. I mean listening to the tone, the pace, the pitch. Our voices betray us more than we realize. If someone says, "I'm fine," but their tone is low, flat, or hesitant, the tone is the truth, not the words. Under pressure, people can control what they say, but not always how they say it. That's where the cracks show. Microexpressions are another goldmine. They're those flashes of real emotion that show up before the mask slips back into place. Anger, fear, disgust. They can all appear and disappear in less than a second. Most people miss them because they're focused on the conversation or thinking about what to say next. But if you train yourself to notice the first flicker of expression after a shift in topic or question, you'll catch a glimpse of what's really going on inside someone. Then there's watching for behavioral changes. People are creatures of habit, even in small ways. They gesture a certain way, speak with a certain rhythm, use certain expressions. If that pattern changes, if someone who was relaxed becomes tense, if their smile suddenly fades, if they shift their body position away from you, it means something. That change is your signal to pay attention. And that leads us to the off feeling. The uneasy knot in your stomach. The sudden awareness that you want distance from a person or situation. The quick spike in adrenaline you can't explain. That's not paranoia, that's biology. Your body is picking up on subtle threats before your conscious mind sees them. The mistake people make is dismissing it because they don't have hard evidence in the moment. They wait. They look for proof. And often, by the time they get it, it's too late to act. But here's the trap. You can't overthink it. If you start analyzing every blink, every hand movement, every tone shift, you'll overwhelm yourself with noise and start seeing danger where there is none. Intuition works best when it flows naturally, when it's informed by observation and experience, but not clouded by constant suspicion. You're not looking to become paranoid. You're looking to become aware. Think of your intuition like a muscle. If you've never used it, it's going to be weak. It won't always feel clear at first, but the more you pay attention to it, the more accurate and reliable it becomes. Every time you act on it, you strengthen it. Every time you ignore it, you dull it. With practice, you'll get to the point where you can walk into a room, take one pass, and know exactly where the energy shifts, who's uneasy, and where you should be paying closer attention. And once you reach that level, you'll see what most people miss. You'll hear the tension in a voice when someone says they're all good. You'll spot the half-second hesitation before someone answers a question. You'll feel the drop in mood when a certain topic comes up. You won't always be able to explain why you notice it, but you'll know what it means. And more importantly, you'll know how to respond to it in real time. When you operate like this, you stop walking blind into situations. You move through the world with a quiet, constant awareness that gives you an edge. You're no longer waiting to be blindsided. You're reading the signs before they turn into problems. That's the point where your gut isn't just a feeling anymore. It's your most trusted ally. And the more you lean into it, the more it works for you. Your first line of defense. Your gut is not just some vague feeling. It's your first and most reliable line of defense. Long before logic has time to assemble all the facts, your instincts have already run the calculations. They've scanned the environment, picked up on the subtle shifts in tone, the tiny changes in posture, the irregular patterns that don't belong. It's a detection system built into you from birth, sharpened by every experience you've ever had, whether you were aware of it or not. That is why you cannot afford to dismiss it or silence it, because it doesn't come with a neat, well-packaged explanation in the moment. When your instincts speak, they're telling you something your conscious mind hasn't caught up to yet, and that speed is what can protect you. Think about the last time you felt that jolt in your stomach or that tension in your chest for no apparent reason. Maybe you were walking into a meeting, standing in a crowded space, or even talking to someone one-on-one. On the surface, everything seemed fine, yet something inside you tightened. Most people push that away because they don't want to seem paranoid or irrational. But if you learn to pause and listen in those moments, you'll start seeing the patterns. You'll realize that your body was picking up on cues your mind wasn't prioritizing, like someone avoiding eye contact at a key moment, a sudden change in voice pitch, or a shift in the way they're standing. These are not coincidences. They're data points, and your intuition is the fastest data processor you have. I've been in countless situations where my survival and safety hinged on listening to that quiet voice inside. It's not always loud, it's not always urgent, but it's always honest. I remember standing in a public place where the energy felt slightly off. Not alarm bells blaring off, just off. No obvious threats. No clear danger, but my instincts told me to scan, to take in the small details. And there it was. One person whose breathing didn't match the pace of the crowd, whose focus was locked in one direction with unnerving intensity. In that moment, I didn't have proof, but I had certainty. That certainty pushed me to adjust my position, to create space, to be ready. Minutes later, my suspicions were confirmed. Something was about to unfold, and by the time it did, I was already in control of my safety. This is what trusting your gut looks like. It's about acting before the obvious becomes obvious. It's about giving yourself the advantage of time, even if that time is just a few seconds. In the world we live in, those seconds matter. They can be the difference between being blindsided and being ready, between losing control and taking control. But let me be clear, trusting your gut doesn't mean walking around in constant suspicion of everyone and everything. That's not awareness. That's paranoia, and they are very different. Awareness is grounded in observation. It's the habit of paying attention to people's normal patterns so that you can instantly recognize when something shifts. If you've never taken the time to notice someone's normal, you won't notice they're abnormal. And that's the key. Your gut reacts most accurately when it's built on a foundation of real, consistent observation. You want your instincts to be like a finely tuned instrument. That doesn't happen overnight. You train it the same way you train your body. You feed it with experiences, you challenge it, you test it. When you meet someone new, take a few extra seconds to register their energy, their handshake, the way they speak. When you walk into a space, instead of diving right into your phone or your thoughts, Take a moment to scan. Look for who's relaxed and who's tense, where the exits are, how people are interacting. Do this often enough, and you'll start noticing things other people miss completely. And once you start seeing those details, your instincts get sharper. You'll catch the person who suddenly stops making eye contact when a topic comes up. You'll notice the forced laugh that doesn't match the smile. You'll feel the shift in the air when tension walks into a room. And here's the most important part. You'll trust yourself to act on it without waiting for someone else to validate you. That's what most people struggle with. They second-guess themselves because they want confirmation from outside sources. But waiting for confirmation is a luxury you can't always afford. This is why I call your intuition your first line of defense, because it responds before anything else does. Your conscious mind will always lag behind. Your emotions may cloud your judgment, but your instincts, they are immediate. They are primal. They are built for speed. And when you honor them, you give yourself a level of personal security and situational awareness that is incredibly rare in today's distracted, overstimulated world. You've got to think of it as carrying a personal radar with you at all times. That radar doesn't just detect danger, it detects shifts, changes, anything that feels inconsistent with the baseline you've learned to read. And sometimes, those inconsistencies aren't about danger at all. They're about truth. They reveal when someone's words don't match their feelings, when an opportunity is too good to be true, when something in a deal or relationship doesn't align. That's the beauty of intuition. It protects you, not just physically, but emotionally, financially, and mentally. But you have to stay disciplined. If you ignore it too often, it weakens. If you tell yourself it's nothing every time it speaks up, eventually it will stop speaking as loudly. And when that happens, you lose one of the most powerful advantages you have in life. On the flip side, when you respect it, when you act on it and see that you were right, even in the smallest ways, you strengthen it. You start walking through life with a quiet confidence, knowing that you don't have to see the whole picture to know the truth. You just have to trust the signals you're getting, and that's where real empowerment comes from. Not from controlling every variable in the world around you, but from knowing you can trust yourself to respond to whatever comes your way. That's what makes your gut your ultimate first line of defense. It's always with you, always watching, always ready. All it needs is for you to start listening.